First one, and probably the most important one in terms of actually maintaining a client, is how you and your law firm show up in AI. The other part that you need to check is you need to make sure that your site is indexable. Your website in particular is indexable by these AI crawlers. The point of this is that there are a lot of LLM models out there, and there's a lot of data out there, but you don't know which ones are going to get which data.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another Justia webinar. My name is Nina, and I'll be the moderator for today. Now, to kick things off, I want to go ahead and introduce our speaker, Tim Stanley. Tim Stanley is the CEO and founder of Justia, one of the most visited legal portals in the world. Justia's mission is to make law and legal resources free for all. Before founding Justia, Tim founded and was CEO of FindLaw. He is the general counsel and on the board of trustees of public.resource.org and was previously on the board of NOLO and American LegalNet. Tim has a Bachelor's of Science and a Master's of Science from Stanford University and a JD from the University of Michigan Law School. The webinar presentation that you're about to watch will be approximately 1 hour, and time permitting, Tim will be taking questions from the audience once the webinar is complete. So if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them by clicking the Q&A button in the control panel at the bottom of your screen. Now, without further ado, here is Tim to discuss winning referrals from ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and other generative AI tools, actionable marketing tactics for modern law firms.
All right, there we go. All right, so I'm going to run through some sort of tactics and different things you can use to sort of be both, show up in these AI LLM models and chats, as well as be suggested when people are looking for services, which is probably the bigger thing to focus on right now. Let me just start running through it. This talk might go a little bit long, so I'm going to break a little bit in the middle part here. And I'm actually just going to give you the answer sheet of stuff to do, and then I'll explain more why you need to do those things if you continue watching. So let me sort of get going. So first, I would say generative AI tools. Obviously, the ones that really matter right now are ChatGPT and Google. Others are out there, but those are really the main two that are being used by consumer individuals and small businesses that are looking for services. And so we'll focus on those two. Most of what's being said on those two will apply to the other ones, and I'll do a brief mention of those as well. All right, so here's ChatGPT. I think most folks know that by now. If not, there's other webinars you can watch about it. Again, just a LLM AI chat. You can ask it questions. It gives you back answers. Has a large data set of knowledge that it can reply with. And here's Google. And of course, Google's, sort of started all this chat stuff even before OpenAI started doing it. And they have a bunch of different ways they brought their models into the Google sort of world. So we'll sort of run through that. First, there's the main Google search, which everybody uses. That will have some AI overviews. We'll see those in just a bit. There's AI mode, which takes you right into a chat mode off search. It really sort of jumps into Gemini. While you're doing a Google search, you can go back and forth a little bit. And then there's Gemini directly, which is basically like ChatGPT, but just sort of a direct model. Beyond that, there's Meta AI, which is Facebook's has their own AI. There's Grok, which is X. DeepSeek, the one in China that's being used, very inexpensive. So a lot of folks are using that for the back end. Perplexity, which is mainly focused on search right now. It might get bought by Apple, maybe Amazon, maybe Meta at some point. And then Claude, which again also might be bought at some point by Amazon or Apple or somebody. All these other ones are good. None of them have that much traction relative to OpenAI and to a lesser extent Google. So right now, here's sort of the breakdown of, one second, let me get through my throat here. Give me a second. Here's a breakdown of the market share of the AI chatbots. And you can see that, ChatGPT really sort of controlling this right now. And it's been relatively steady. So they've got 60% by themselves, Copilot from Microsoft's really ChatGPT as well. So around 75% of the overall market. Gemini's next. a large part of Gemini is just Google sort of pushing on people. So Google's able to use its market position in search sort of to lift up its position on the AI side. And then it sort of falls off of it. Perplexity's, done pretty well recently. Claude, and then, Grok and DeepSeek are also there. But really, right now, it's ChatGPT and to a lesser extent, Google, just for the chat part. And Google's coming in relatively strong by mixing into their Google search. So I expect the Google share of this to increase greatly. But there's, certain reasons why ChatGPT is still doing quite well in terms of its usability. So that said, we will focus on these two. I'll start with some examples on ChatGPT at the beginning of this discussion. And then I'm going to do a whole larger section on Google, because for right now, Google's still the most important one in terms of getting overall referrals and traffic to your site. So, all right, keep going here. All right, here's a quick outline of what we're going to cover. I'm going to quickly run through how AI can lead to referrals and in different ways. It's just sort of run through some examples. I'm then going to give the answer sheet, sort of what you need to do. These are the action points. I'll also cover them in more detail later in the talk. But if you just want the answers, this will be the answer sheet. What do I need to do better in AI? It's, do this and you'll do well. I will then go into Google search and AI in particular. I'll talk about how Google, has some different tie-ins with AI and how they're bringing AI into their services. I'll then talk about ranking for services in AI. And this right here is the most important part in terms of actually getting clients from AI. I mean, it's nice to have information and everything else, but in terms of getting clients, if someone types in, I need the best Los Angeles criminal lawyer, it'd be nice to be on that list, right? Because AI is actually doing a lot of the suggestions. You can think of it as like a directory, but, sort of curated using data from the internet. I'll then run through how you can rank for like information type searches. What's the statute of limitations? What should I do in this type of situation? If I need a lease contract, what should I look for? There's ways to rank for that as well. Doesn't lead to quite as many referrals, but it might in some cases. And then that's mainly how you do well in AI. And then I'm going to quickly run through the AI generated content guidelines that Google's put out recently, just so if you're using AI to write your own content, this is sort of what you need to do, to sort of the rules you need to follow. And then a little bit on what I see as the future. That's just me sort of talking. So let's run through the beginning part here and just run through the main sort of ways that AI can be used to drive referrals. All right. First one, and probably the most important one in terms of actually maintaining a client, is how you and your law firm show up in AI. So, here's Ron Miller. He's a great lawyer in Baltimore. And, I could go in here and I could just say, please tell me about Baltimore lawyer Ron Miller. And normally if I'm a lawyer, I'm going to say, tell me about my name. And I might add, I'm a lawyer and the city I'm in. That's normally how I would go into an AI model and take a look at it. The second thing, when I'm trying to figure out how consumers are going to see me, I will use sort of the basic free models. So here I'm using ChatGPT 4.0. All right. That's 4.0. That's what someone who doesn't have a paid account with, OpenAI and ChatGPT, that's the model they're going to be using. If I'm writing my own content, I'm using the thinking models. They take long. I'll be using O3. The numbering system's a little bit odd, but I'll be using the better, higher level model when writing my own content for my website or an article or an email or whatever else you tend to be writing. Client, any sort of client contacts. Always check it for facts, but in terms of the quality, it's much higher. But consumers, they're using the basic models for the most part. And these are much faster and they give quicker answers. So I'm checking Ron on the 4.0 model here. And you can see there's Miller's voice there. It sort of shows, one of the citations there. And there's Justia and there's some other ones included. And you go through here, it's got, its recognitions. He's got a 10 on Avo and Justia. That's great. Best lawyers and Maryland super lawyers. He's in the $1 million advocates forum. It's basically all of some of the awards and credentials that he has. Talks a little bit about some of the other teaching community stuff he does, and just has some additional information about him. How he focuses, some of the verdicts and settlements and things like that. Let's take a look at the sources that ChatGPT is using. So I click on, and what I did is I clicked on the sources link here at the bottom. You can click on the little citations that would also take you over, but let's just look at them. Let's look at all the ones that they're using, or at least the main ones that they're pulling in for this. So here are the citations here on the side. First one is his website. And I've color coded this, so the website's being read. Next one is a directory. This is the Justia Lawyer directory. His website again, another website that he runs, another website that he runs, his LinkedIn profile, his social media, another lawyer directory, Martindale Hubble, or the Internet Brands collection of directories. I'm going to keep you sort of going. And sort of moving down here, the other ones I just did, Martindale. Super Lawyers, another directory. Yelp, a business directory. And lawyer.com, another lawyer directory. The main thing I point out here is that when looking for information about yourself, a lot of it's going to come from your own website. A lot of it. In fact, most of it. Beyond that, it's going to come from lawyer and law firm directories and from business directories. So those would be the next two. The one social media one that sort of jumps in there periodically is LinkedIn. But LinkedIn doesn't provide data to everybody. So, LinkedIn doesn't allow everyone to spider it. And I'll quickly discuss data sources in a little bit. But certainly, if it's a Microsoft service, in this case, right now, Microsoft and OpenAI are still doing okay together, I guess. They might be competing in the future. We'll have to see where that goes. But, LinkedIn has its own data. It may or may not open it up to everybody, right? Internet Brands may or may not open up their data to everybody. I'll discuss that a little bit too. But from your standpoint as a lawyer, your website, number one, most important thing for you. And the second part is getting in the lawyer and law firm directories. And I'll discuss sort of what you need to do and what you should write for those. And then beyond that, some of the business directories and social media, in particular LinkedIn, and then for Facebook, do your Facebook business profile. Make sure that one's good from that standpoint. So that was Ron. Ron's good. He's got a lot of information about himself. He has his directory profiles filled out. He does quite well. All right, let's take a look at someone's looking for a service provider. So they're going to the AI and they say, I need a lawyer, right? So I need to hire the best criminal lawyer in Seattle. Who should I hire? All right. So there it is. Let's pull it up. So this comes back and, you get some folks here. I got this one law firm here. You can see they have a 10 Avo rating right here. And the link goes to Justia, one of the sites for it. But, you can say that you're a 10 on Avo on Justia, right? You can do it. You can also say it on your website. So that's this fact that they have a 10 on Avo is actually reinforced by other websites as well. It's not just Avo. It's also, Justia. They can mention that they have a 10 on Avo there too. Sort of coming through here, you've got some additional lawyers that you can sort of pick up on. You can see, here's groupings in Justia, which is cited the super lawyers. I'm not saying that AI is always perfect here. Here's a citation to Avo, another super lawyer citation up here. But anyways, you're seeing a lot of different lawyer directories as sort of the primary citation for some of these different facts on the page. And we could keep sort of going through and you get some more information about these folks. We'll click on sources. All right, so what sources is it using to try to find the best Seattle criminal lawyer? That's what we're trying to find here. All right. We have a lawyer directory. We have a website, a website, a website, a website, a lawyer directory, a lawyer directory. All right. The two things here. One, lawyer directories and law firm directories tend to have quite a presence when trying to decide who the best lawyers are in these LLM models. And they just do. So you should make sure you fill out those profiles. The second part is you have influence on your websites, right? So make sure that you fill out your website as well. I'll keep going here. Here's some Yelp directories. That's one of the main business directories that gets picked up. Another website, lawyer directory, website, lawyer directory, and there's a last website here. Again, websites, lawyer directories, a little bit of business directories. LinkedIn is more for your individual, how people see individually. LinkedIn does not tend to show up as much when trying to find the best lawyers all the time for particular practices. And yet, but other things like Yelp will certainly show up much more on that. So something to note, nothing surprising here, but it gives you an idea of where the content's coming from and what you need to do in sort of places you need to go to sort of add content. All right. We have a blog post that lists all the free lawyer directories. So a lot of places have it. Mockingbird has Attorney Sync, Rankings.io, a bunch of them do have it. I did a webinar with Conrad Sam of Mockingbird marketing, right, up in Seattle. Used to run Avos. Remember, Avo was at the top for everything. He was doing the marketing at the time. And we have a webinar. You should go watch that webinar. It's all on profiles. It's about profiles both for controlling your reputation, but also profiles for AI, right? So that it's a whole separate part. I'm going to go into slightly different nuances on it here. But we had that webinar there as well. It was a good webinar. It's like 2 Michigan guys, and it's like we beat Ohio State 4 times in a row. It was just fun. But you should definitely go here, and you should more or less sign up for every single law firm and lawyer profile that's free. And it's just an absolute no-brainer. You need to go do it. And I will discuss that in just a bit. It's free, so just do it. All right, the last part is information discovery and referrals. So here's something I typed into ChatGPT. What are the statute of limitations for a car accident in Maryland? It gives me all the details. Here's Miller and Zoyce. They get cited a lot here. And you could go down and you can read some of the exceptions, different things like that. And then click on sources. And yeah, you're getting a bunch of different websites. The big thing with the information searches is a lot of times people don't click on the items that are cited. And if they do, which one do they click on, right? It's not always obvious which one really contributed to the article. It's sort of a mishmash. So not as good for getting traffic to your website. Certainly, I think you still want to be there to contribute. And if someone is looking for a lawyer, if they might see who did contribute, obviously it'd be better to be the higher level site, the top citation. But again, it's never always obvious as to who contributed what to the summary. And there's just a bunch of law firm websites. There's the government as well. All right. That basically are the three core ways within a chat LLM AI that you could get a referral. Someone could be looking you up, in which case you really want to make sure they want to continue hiring you. They could be looking for a service, in which case you want to make sure you're recommended or suggested. And that's really the one that I think most of you should focus on. In fact, the first two, what it says about you and being recommended for a service, that's actually the same work that needs to be done. So that's basically getting you out or your law firm out to look good. All right. So that's the same work. So those first two are really the same in terms of what you need to do to be successful. And the third one is showing up well for information searches, and that may or may not get you referral, even if you're there. And that's a separate, that's a bigger discussion. I think Google's going to have to decide how they sort of treat websites that provide information, especially like someone like Ron Miller, who puts up a lot of information online. How does that actually help him to be providing it if a lot of the reasons he's providing it was to rank high in Google? Because right now you're helping Google, but it's not always obvious you're getting traffic. And I'll go into more detail on that part in just a few minutes. All right. That's it. We're 20 minutes in, not quite 20 minutes. Let's go to the part, what you need to do. And this is I just want to run through this because I know some of the details, it sort of gets lost in the weeds, but this is just the core stuff you need to do. First, this is pretty basic. AI eventually will become more important than search. This AI LLM chat models. Now, it might be chats through video. It might be chats through, the other ways of doing the chats, but it will occur. Right now, if it's really sort of a dividing line. And the dividing line is really who was in school when ChatGPT came out, because when 3.5 came out. Because when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, every student started using that to help them write papers and essays and things like that. They just did. I mean, I know they had rules and stuff, but it was a floodgates. So if you talk to younger folks, let's say, I don't know, 25 or younger, they're using ChatGPT first all the time. Maybe they'll use Gemini somewhat, but they're definitely using ChatGPT. And they just keep using it, and they use it to find information. And their whole minds, they're a ChatGPT first generation. The older folks still tend to be using Google, right? Like me, I'm still using Google. Although I am using ChatGPT and Gemini more and more. But eventually, whether it's Google integrating Gemini more into Google search and sort of becomes a more dominant feature, or ChatGPT starts taking off even more so, the tying in search, coming the other way, search into their chat, which they've done. You can sort of see this is where it's going. Because at the end of the day, people would like just to get the answer, right? Just tell me what the answer is. Tell me what I should do. They want to click on links. They don't want to do anything. They just want the answer, right? That's all they want. So I don't think it's going to replace search right away. And I'll give some data on that in just a bit. But it will eventually. I think at least 3 years, search will still be dominant. And even if search changes a bit, I think Google will still be in a good position. I don't know if they'll be in as good a position as they are today in search, but they'll still be in a very strong position. At least one of the two, and probably number one. All right. The second item is that you guys, the lawyers and the law firms, really have a lot more control over what AI says about you than you think. And basically, it's by controlling the text and what you write on your website and what you write on these lawyer and law firm directories, and to a lesser extent, what you put up on your LinkedIn profile or your Facebook business page. Maybe some other profiles you up there. Sometimes YouTube profiles will show up, and what you do on certain business directories, right? In order of importance, your website's number one. Right? Not even close. If you have a separate profile on the blog, that's great. If you have multiple websites, each one matters. That's number one. Second most important, lawyer and law firm websites. It's the second most important. That's the next part that these LLMs are using, especially in terms of the lawyer suggestions, which are the most important ones, right? When someone's looking for the best lawyer in a location. So, I know most of you guys, you set up profiles on lawyer directories because you wanted links back to your website. Great. Well, right now you need to go refresh those directory profiles and put good text into it and fill it out better, because that content is, for the LLMs, is basically your links, as I'll mention in my point number 8 up here, which I think is sort of the key point with LLMs. Well, I just said this. Basically, they get it from law firm websites, your profiles, business directories, social media. So that's the order of things. All right. You control this information, make them strong as possible. Something I also just mentioned when I mentioned number 2. Number 5 is slightly different, and this is awards and ratings. So there's 2 things here. One, you need to get more awards and ratings, which means you need to actually go out and do it. It's not as difficult as you think, right? It's not, and a lot of what you get will be based on your reputation. A lot of what your reputation will be is what you actually put up about yourself. So certain ones like Justia or Avo, basically if you fill out your profile and you get other lawyers to be sort of references for you and to give you, sort of, thumbs up and give you reviews, that's what'll drive your ratings with those 2. And Avo and Justia are important for that. Other ones, let's take like super lawyers. Super lawyers, you have to apply to. They have a system, right? They're going to look at all these different attributes. And then to figure out who's the super lawyer, and they say it's the top 5%. It's not the top 5% of the people that apply, it's top 5% of all lawyers. And they even break it down by, size of firms and things, which, anyway, so I'll leave it there. They got their own plan, though. But then they have some lawyers actually review the lawyers, decide who's a super lawyer. Most of those lawyers that review you will not know you, even if they're reviewing you for a practice area or whatever else. They might have heard of you, but it's still going to be your reputation. They might not have seen you in court. So, or if you're doing transactional work, they might not have seen you do transactions. So your online reputation also impacts whether you become a super lawyer. So, if I'm going through, I'm one of the judges at super lawyers, and I see this guy has a Justia 10 and Avo 10, and they've got Best Lawyers of America, and they've got, $1 million advocates and whatever, the Trial Lawyer 100, or, those like, there's a bunch of different awards, right? Expertise.com. I mean, loves expertise.com. Forbes, which I saw on the Gare site, which will be showing up a little bit. The Forbes Award. They will take a look at your reputation. It will help you become a super lawyer. So it all sort of builds on. It's all based on reputation, right? I'm not saying that Some folks might know you personally and say, yeah, I'm going to give you my thumbs up. But a lot of this is reputation, even on these other awards, and deciding who it is. So the big parts here is start with the awards that you know you can somewhat at least influence, like Avo, Justia. We could go out and get reviews and different things like that, and then start applying for some of the others and start building it up. Then you need people to know about those awards. So you've got to take those awards and feature them on your website and on your other profiles, and just sort of get it distributed out. So here's the item. Let's take like Avo. So Avo right now is not allowing AI to crawl them, right? It's not allowing these AI spiders to crawl them. And that might be for a number of reasons. Maybe the AI spiders are too aggressive. Maybe they're doing a licensing deal. I mean, Avo is part of Internet Brands. Internet Brands owns WebMD. Internet Brands owns a lot of automotive websites and communities. So I could see, Bob Briscoe runs Internet Brands going to OpenAI or Google and doing sort of a licensing deal, sort of like Reddit, and said, hey, you know what? We've got great content. We've got the Avo questions and answers. We've got, all these automotive forums. We got WebMD, right? Lots of stuff on WebMD. We would like you to license the content so you can use it in your LLMs. So pay us X $1 billion. And Avo would be part of that. So you go, okay, well, I could see that, but I want my Avo rating to show up in the LLMs. All right, that's fine. Take your Avo rating and mention it on your website. Mention it on Justia. I'm not going to bother if you mention Avo. I like Internet Brands. So you could go ahead and mention it. Mention all your awards. Mention your Justia award on Avo in case Avo later shows up, does a deal with Google, and then you want the Justia one to also show up. I mean, we'll always be indexed by Google and OpenAI and folks, but if you want to show up different places, add these awards to your different profiles. Add it to your Super Lawyers one. Add it to your FindLaw one, right? Add it to your lawyers.com, your Martindale. You've got a lot of profiles out there that are getting picked up, right? The Internet Brand ones are there. So we got Justia, but you've got Avo, FindLaw, lawyers.com, Martindale, Law Info, Super Lawyers, Abogado.com. I mean, they've got a lot. Each of those you go fill them out and make sure that they're fully filled out. Fill out both your lawyer profile and your law firm profile when they have law firms. Like us and Avo, we just have lawyers right now. But others like Martindale, they'll have law firm profiles, and sometimes the AIs will pull in law firms. Google in particular likes to get law firms because they like to tie it into their Google business profiles. So there's you fill those out as well. On your individual profiles, in the text, mention your law firm and write a sentence or two about it. Why your law firm's great in your individual profile. That will get picked up. On Justia, it can help your law firm do better because you mentioned like a line of text or 2 lines of text saying our law firm has been one of the top rated law firms, Martindale AV rated, and something like that, in terms of the highest level of professionalism and ethics. You can mention that in your text, your profile for your law firm. And similarly, if it's a lawyer, if it only has law firms, you can mention some of your lawyers, right? Garrett does that on some of their profiles. So you can try to get that information out by putting in text and adding stuff, even if it's in a different profile. Even if Avo's here, you can still mention that on Justia. You can still, even if we don't have a law firm profiles right now, you can still mention your law firm on your Justia profile or on your Avo profile, right? And it will help you. So you got to get the awards. That's work. That's real work that you're going to have to do. It's not as crazy work as you think, but you have to start doing it. The second thing, fill out your profiles and get those profiles and those awards distributed on all your profiles. All right. We will cover Google Business Profiles in particular in just a bit. I know we've had other webinars on this in the past. Google likes Google Business Profiles, right, for Gemini. So make sure your Google Business Profile is fully filled out. Do the same stuff that I mentioned about getting good narrative text, mentioning that you have awards in that narrative text of your Google Business Profile, right? It's helpful. And then do all the little items. You can add, there's a lot of other places you can add text in. You have product pages, which is like really is where you put services in. You have a question and answer sections. You could do posts. There's lots of different places that you can mention how well you're doing on your Google Business Profile that a lot of people don't. There's a lot more places to enter text there than you might think, especially the product side. a little bit, to a lesser extent, you can do the question and answer, and the posts are a little bit more temporal, but you can still, you can get a more and certainly mention it. This part I'm going to come back to again. Strong profiles is what's going to lead to strong AI data, whether that's on your website or on the lawyer directories. This is what's driving it. The profiles are your links in these LLMs. So if you think of getting links to show up higher in Google for Google search, right? And you said, oh, it's all about the links. I've got to do that. Here, it's about your profiles. It's about the text in your profiles. And the LLMs are out there and they're looking for the best data. If it's about you and your law firm, they will look at you and your law firm, especially about you and your law firm. If they're looking for something like the best Seattle criminal lawyer or best Boston personal injury lawyer, they will tend to look at directories, right? If I add law firm, they'll look at more tend towards law firm directories. The thing is even on Justia or Avo or FindLaw or Super Lawyers or all these other directories, you actually have a tremendous amount of control over what these LLMs see. So to a certain extent, they're going, okay, well, that's Justia. That's a third-party directory. I trusted source, Avo trusted source, Super Lawyers trusted source, FindLaw trusted source. Third parties making editorial decisions. And yet, your profile, for the most part, for most of these, is filled out by you. It's up to you to put everything you've done there. You can need to, add verdicts and settlements, representative cases, talk about why you're great. Make it, think of like you're selling clients why you're great. You're now selling the LLMs. So then the LLMs can go pick it up. The one thing I would say, and this, will show up again a little bit later, is don't try to put the exact same profile text in every profile. Mix it up a little bit. Treat it like the old, before, Google got better at sort of figuring out which text is really substantially similar. LLMs haven't done that, but they do know duplicate text. So try to have a slightly different profile text on Justia than Avo than FindLaw, right? Don't use the exact same text every time, right? Mix it up a little bit. You could use AI to help you write the text up in different ways, right? You can put the paragraphs in, have AI write different versions, check it to make sure it's true. Make sure you're not breaking any ethical rules in terms of how you're presenting yourself, but you can have AI. If you have to write descriptive text for 50, 60 directories, AI could help you get the first draft of all that done. All right. Use the reasoning model. Use O3 or Google, use Google Pro 2.5 Pro, Gemini 2.5 Pro. All right. But this is important. The profiles are your links, the data. And then the last part that you need to note is when you're trying to get into information stuff, use a question and answer format. What is this? This is that. I know it chunks it, it's 100, 200, 300 characters. Try to do it sentence to sentence. Treat this the way we used to, we still do treat, being a featured snippet. Ask the question, answer the question, put it up, use FAQ page, schema markup, which you can go look up. Maybe your developers have it built in the systems. Normally, you can add into WordPress if you use some of the different plugins. They'll have it. Like Yoast has that built in different things for WordPress. So there are ways you can use that. But you should try to do the markup. Markup's not as important as getting good questions and good answers. And I'll discuss some places you can find what to answer on that part. I'll discuss this more. So there it is. This is just so people can take a screenshot. So it's all in black font for a second. There's the first 6. There's the next 3. Okay. All right. This is the one that matters the most and that you should remember. And that's the data are your links. And you've got to make your data better, especially in these lawyer law firm directories and certain business directories like Yelp and certain social directories like LinkedIn and your Facebook business page. All right. Those ones have to be good. Those ones are getting picked up. And I mean all the lawyer directories. I've seen U.S. attorneys show up. I mentioned law info, lawyer.com. There's ones that you might not jump out, Lawyer Legion. I mean, they show up. So all the lawyer directories, because those are focused on lawyers. If you want to show up in suggested service searches, don't just do Justia and FindLaw and Super Lawyers and Avo. I mean, you got hit them all. That is your link stuff. What else about that part? Well, the other part that you need to check is you need to make sure that your site is indexable. Your website in particular is indexable by these AI crawlers. So Cloudflare, which a lot of people use, is now blocking AI crawlers by default. All right. Your most important profiles is your profile on your website. Don't block it. All right. You talk to your developer, make sure it's not getting blocked, especially from Google and OpenAI and Perplexity, right? Claude and, Grok and Meta, and, maybe DeepSeek, some of the others. I don't know I'm not saying you have to do them all. I know some of these crawlers are extremely aggressive. There's 8,000 of them. And maybe you want to just hit the main ones that actually have some traction among users, or traction among people actually writing, like Claude. Maybe it's not used by users directly, but it's certainly used by a lot of people that write articles and things like that, newspaper writers. But you got to double check that, because they're turning off by default. And it's great to protect the content of your law firm and stuff, that maybe you can license it. But let's face it, you're not internet brands. You don't have millions and millions and millions of pages of stuff. You're a small law firm. What you need to do is make sure your stuff gets indexed. Are they going to use it? Yeah. If they're not going to use yours, they're going to use someone else's. It's already done. At this point, just allow them to do it. Unless you're selling content, selling a book or something that you're licensing, there's no need for you not to allow the LLMs to pick it up, because if they don't, they're going to pick up your competitors, and especially your profiles. So in your homepage in particular, if you have to just pick pages, but if you're picking pages, just don't do it. Just allow them to crawl everything, especially the main ones. Some of these folks that have directories don't always allow everyone to crawl. Like LinkedIn is known for not allowing folks to crawl them, right? They got crawled beforehand, and they're now doing aggressive stuff to block some of the crawlers. On the other hand, so right here it says you can't do automated scripts. Yeah, you could license it from them, but you can't automate this stuff. So they're not, people aren't, AI spiders are not able to go into LinkedIn right now and do it unless they have permission. On the other hand, when you put stuff on LinkedIn, you've licensed out that content. They basically can use it on their products and services. They can license it out. And if you remove it, if they've already licensed it, and they've got protections, so it's not like they can go to all the people they've licensed it to and pull it back. The point of this is that there are a lot of LLM models out there, and there's a lot of data out there, but you don't know which ones are going to get which data. And so Microsoft will get LinkedIn data, I'm pretty sure, right? They own it. Meta is going to get the Facebook and Instagram data. Google's going to get the Google business pages and YouTube data, right? Just are. And Grok is going to get whatever the hell is on X, all right? It's just, everyone's going to get their data, and then they might get more data from the web, all right? Depending on whether you're blocked it or not with Cloudflare or some other service. The main thing here for you all is fill everything out. You don't know what, if Avo blocks something, maybe they license it out tomorrow. I don't know, right? But fill all the different profiles out. Try to get out there everywhere, and then mention your awards and your wins and your verdicts and settlements using the brand name Avo, using the brand name Super Lawyer on other directories, right? Some folks don't want to do it, but you should do it. That way it gets picked up. And I'm going to show you an example in just a bit, which will reinforce what I just said here. You really need to fill this stuff out. This is what's going to drive it. All right. That's it. That's the stuff you need to do. Basically, fill out all your profiles, make sure that your website and stuff's getting indexed, and get awards, and then mention your awards everywhere. All right. And then if you're doing for information stuff, use the FAQ stuff. What is this? This is that. Try to make it concise, and use FAQ page markup if you can. If not the end of the world on that. But profiles are, right? Especially law firm and lawyer directories. The internet brand ones, Justia, but all the other ones too. U.S. attorneys, lawyer.com. All right. Let's talk about Google search and AI. So now we'll sort of jump in here a bit, because we all know that Google sort of started all this, and OpenAI ran with it, and now Google's sort of coming back with it. And I'd sort of expected Google to be further along on it. I think part of it is that they branded it Google, while to a certain extent Microsoft branded theirs OpenAI. So anyways, something to note. Keeps them a little bit more cautious. I think they should be at some points. All right. We're going to cover basically what Google's doing. We're going to talk, why Google's important still, where things are. talk about Google search with AI summaries, Google AI mode, Google Gemini, and I'm going to talk a little bit what the links are coming from Google. This is not the links to Google AI. This is the links out of the Google AI and where they're pointing to, which I think Google Business Profile, but there are other examples too. All right, why Google? All right, well, here was the market share of the chatbots, right? Remember this? We had ChatGPT, it's 75%, Google Gemini a little bit lower. All right. And then Perplexity, Claude, and the others. So what I did is I took one of our clients' websites. You don't know who it is, so I think it's fine. And I just looked at their traffic for the last month. And I said, well, I'm going to plot their traffic. And they're getting, 1,000, 500,000 visits or users. I said not visits, users a day. So a decent amount of traffic. And I said, well, let's plot this out. Let's take a look at the total. Let's look at what's coming from Google and let's look at what's coming from ChatGPT. And so the top light blue is the total. The dark blue one is Google, and the green one is ChatGPT. So not a lot. All right, just in general. And here's sort of the numbers for the last month, and you can see, well, they had 27,000 total users, 18,000 were from Google, and 52 were from ChatGPT, 67.8% versus 0.19%. All right, that's not a lot. The point is this. Right now, most of your traffic's still coming from Google, and that's for two reasons. One reason is that traffic comes from search because people click on links, and people do not click on citations as much. You might get clients other ways by being an LLMs, like maybe they see your contact information, or maybe sometimes it puts links into directories, right? I've seen links go over to the Justia lawyer directory for particular lawyers. I've also seen it go to Law Info and Avo and different places. So it's not just us on that part. But LLMs put in links and different stuff, or sometimes they'll link over to Yelp, or they'll link over to other business directories. But getting direct traffic to your website, not nearly as common as being on a search result page with a ChatGPT or any LLM, including Google Gemini. So not surprising, going back here for a second, that Google is just dominating the amount of traffic you're getting. And that's going to continue for a while. The separate issue is how do people actually use the internet? And maybe your website gets less traffic, but you still get good contacts, right? That could also happen if you show up especially if you're showing up the suggestions, right? But the suggestions, again, are not just your website. There's also these other directories. So just do your website. You're not going to do as well as someone who's doing everything else. And I imagine people will, because if I'm saying it, I'm sure other people are saying it. And it seems, it's pretty common sense. But actually doing the work, you need to do it work. So, we got the three different things with Google. We got the Google search itself, which has the AI overviews. We have AI mode, which is basically dumping into the Gemini interface with the low level 2.5 Flash. And we have the low level Gemini 2.5 Flash, which also uses 2.5 Pro, a little bit more thinking. And then you can even do some deep dive, deep research stuff as well on Gemini. But for the most part, most users, they're using the basic level. So we'll focus on 2.5 Flash for Gemini as well. All right, let's take a look at this. This is pretty obvious stuff, but I'm sure you guys have seen it, but let's just run through what's going on here. So many searches on Google, many do not have AI overviews. And here's, Seattle criminal lawyer. Here's Detroit personal injury lawyer. Here's New York probate lawyer. Palo Alto bankruptcy lawyer. And I was doing this incognito from California, so you don't always see all the ads that we normally show up. And this one, we actually just had a featured snippet. And I'm going to do Palo Alto bankruptcy lawyer as my example in a second. So I thought it was interesting to see a snippet still showing up. But the main thing here is that, Google makes money by selling ads and local service ads. And granted, they're not here right now because I was in this incognito mode from California searching across the country. But normally you'll see ads up there. And they don't need all their searches to make most of their money. They make most of their money off maybe 5% of their searches. Most searches on Google they're there, but but they're not really money makers on things. But some are, right? Like credit cards or auto insurance or Los Angeles personal injury lawyer. And if you look through here, if you just sort of play around with this a bit, you will quickly see that in major metros for major practice areas, they are less likely to show AI overviews because they detracts from the ads. Yet if you're in a smaller city like Saline, Michigan, or even Cupertino, or different cities, the AI overview is much more likely to show up. The other thing to note is AI overviews, when they do show up, are more likely for smaller cities or just to give basic information. For if they do show up for a separate area for larger cities, they tend to actually give lawyers as well. All right, let's take a look at some different examples of AI overviews in action. So we just saw no AI overviews in our AI overview section. Let's go take a look at AI overviews. So let's do Palo Alto bankruptcy lawyer, take one. So here's Palo Alto bankruptcy lawyer. You see the AI overview showing up right here. You sort of see that. Extend it out. All right, and then you could go down the page. Then you got the maps. And then we have the links. There's Super Lawyers, Yelp, Justia. And there are some other law firms, Fine Law and Cornell. All right, here's the AI overview, which is at the top of the page, right? Which get picked up even above the maps. If we look at this, where are the sources? Directory, website, all right? Website. This is, Nolo has a directory, prior internet brands, but this is like an information page. Again, this is an information page from FindLaw, not really their directory page. Another website and another website. Here's a website which is promoting Avo. Right? Looks like they have a superb 10.0 at Avo. And if we keep going, website, another information page coming from a more financial side of things, another directory, and then the Justia one, the other ones, we already did those. So, but again, what you're seeing are lawyer directories and websites and a couple of legal information pages about, how much it costs, how do you hire a bankruptcy lawyer. So anyways, this gives you an idea what's sort of showing up in terms of the results. In the main AI overview, they give you some suggested lawyers right up front. Now, it's giving you, for bankruptcy right here, somewhat because Palo Alto has a lot of sort of large law focus on small startup tech companies. So they do go bankrupt periodically, and then the losses get sold off to be written off someone else's taxes. So you got some large firms in here because of that. But the one thing to note here is that all of them, and this is true with all the searches when it comes to AI, they're never searching Palo Alto bankruptcy lawyer. They're always looking for the best, the most experienced, the top rated. That's built into the AI for this stuff. So again, while it might be keyword density in the old days, Palo Alto bankruptcy lawyer, now for the AI part, it's sort of top rated, the best, experienced, and different things like that. And then, it mentions some other resources with Super Lawyers and Justia here, which has some links off to our directories. All right, that's fine. That was take one. Let's do it again. So we do it again. This time we get a little bit different result. Let's take a look at this AI result. All right, get a nice summary up here. This Binder Malter is doing pretty well. Get some websites. Get super lawyer listings. We get some additional law firms. And then again, you have a combination on the side. This would be law firm, lawyer directories, in this case, super lawyers, and then the BCG one, which they're really a recruiting firm, so they're just listing off the largest law firms that do bankruptcy law in Palo Alto, and then a bunch of other individual law firm websites. Take three. All right, let's do it one more time. Again, we get part up here. This time we get some firms. Now we're getting some individuals as well. Here's one that says, according to Justia, right? And these large firms, of course, are according to BCG's search, which is, again, recruiting service. All right. And you can keep going down here. They got more stuff down here at the page, and then they give some resources. Find Law, Super Lawyers, Justia, and Yelp showing up. Again, 3 different ones, 3 different overviews. the main point of this is that the overviews aren't consistent, right? They're going to be different browsers, different people. For yourself, they'll if you go back, hit reload on your own page, they try to keep it static. They're not going to run it every single time you hit reload like that, but it's not consistent. It's being done on the fly, and you could say it's personalized in some way, but maybe not. It's just it's hard to say this is the way things are, and if you go through a bunch of times, a lot of times you can get different results and see different items. My take overall is, maybe look at once or twice. You might look at a couple different instances. It's not drastically different. The core stuff of your website and the directories and the business directories being most important in LinkedIn is still true. So I shouldn't change the way you act and do things on it. But if you want to see how you're ranking or showing up, being suggested for different terms, do searches on maybe a few different browsers. Open up some different browsers on it. AI mode. Okay. Again, and I'm going to say AI mode in Gemini also random. It's not consistent. There's not like a single answer. So let's look at Google search AI mode. So here was, again, we did the overview here. We did the overview on this one, right? 2 different overviews. Let's look at the first one that we had. We just did this. These are from the previous one. If I click on AI mode, this time I get a set of links. Now, a set of links in AI mode or in Gemini is sort of it's like the blue screen of death. It's basically, this search has ended. And I'll come back and I'll discuss that in just a little bit. But this, basically, they've just took my AI mode and they turned it into search. If I want to search, why don't I just stay on the search page and scroll down? But they do that. And they do that periodically. And they tend to do it in anything that for some reason triggers a controversy issue. I see that, bankruptcy, maybe financial stuff. I see it more in criminal law, right? Especially if you search like domestic violence, things like that. It says, you know what? I don't want to answer this with AI. Anything about Donald Trump, right? It'll tend to give you a set of links if you start asking controversial stuff. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to give you links, right? And part of that is that Google doesn't want to be held responsible from AI results if it doesn't turn out right. OpenAI doesn't seem to have that problem too much. I don't tend to get a set of links and a conversation ended by OpenAI, but you do on Google. So that was that right there is your blue screen of death for chat. You can start a brand new chat, but it'll be a brand new chat. Again, I'll show you another example of that in a bit. The other one, I go to AI mode. Great. It's just giving me more data. So this one's really just like a second. It's like getting a brand new AI overview, but redone from scratch. Sometimes if I'm a smaller city, I'll start adding lawyers in. While beforehand it was just giving me how to hire a lawyer, which is nice. And it puts me here where I can start, I can start going back and forth and chatting with it if I want. While in AI overview mode, I couldn't do that. So AI overview mode on the search page, I was not able to chat back and forth. Now in AI mode on search, I can chat back and forth and go into it. Again, same search, different AI overviews, and also different AI modes, just for clicking over. All right, Google Gemini, it's just like AI mode. The only difference here is that if you want to, you could use the 2.5 Pro if you're logged in, and you could go into deep research. Those are things you should do when writing your own content, right? And I've covered that in the past. But those things, don't use the basic models when writing anything for yourself or to clients or anything like that. Here it is, Palo Alto bankruptcy lawyer. It gives me some overview. It's a nice guide. And it talks about some client testimonials. It mentions Michael J. Berger. Talks about peer recognition from like Justia, super lawyers, Martindale Hubble. You should add Avo in there and some others. And, what you should look for. Then we start getting some specific lawyers. And then we get like a list of lawyers from Justia within our site. Here's one that was also mentioned, super lawyers. That'll happen periodically. So it's good. This is Justia one. Sometimes it'll be law info. But again, this is just like AI mode. And you can go back and forth on it. And it is the same thing. At some point, it might just give you a set of links to look at. All right. Fine. So you got three different ways to interact with Google AI. The one that's most important initially for you all will be the AI summaries, if you're mentioned there. AI mode is secondary. It's an extra click, or they had to search off it to begin with. Gemini, probably the least important right now, but could be more important later. And eventually, somehow this all has to get put in together. And OpenAI will probably move into search, and maybe Perplexity will be bought by Apple, and they'll move into search and AI. So you might have more competition. A lot of different things going on at once. But from your standpoint, go out and get awards and fill out these profiles and make sure your website profiles are great, and make sure they're being indexed by Google. All right, let's talk about Google AI links. What are the links that Google's giving to law firm websites or other areas when doing AI results? So here's one, miscellaneous, and we get some list of lawyers here. Let's just click on these links here. Here's Central Coast Bankruptcy. Here's Monterey. And so these links here on this first one, these are just canned searches into Google. All right, that's all. This is just Google searches. That's all it is. All right. More Google traffic. It's like doing a name search for yourself. All right. Here's another one. Fremont Personal Injury Lawyer. And here's a bunch of ones. Now, these all go to Google business pages. Okay. Every single one of these is a Google business page. Google cares about Google business pages. So this happens a lot, or not always, but a lot of times they're going off the Google business page, in which case you got to have a good Google business page. And by the way, get your reviews up, make sure you're doing well. If you don't, if they decide to list Google business pages and you have a 2.8 for your review average, you're not going to get listed here. They're going to put a cutoff and they're just going to remove you. While you might get listed if they're just looking for the individual lawyer, that was great, not the firm, which might have, some different things with reviews. All right. Here's another one. Okay. This one, no links. You got some contact information. This was for Chicago criminal lawyers. Yeah. Okay. That's, again, here's another one. Houston probate lawyer. You got some stuff here. There's Justia and Super Lawyers in Ava. And here we got some lawyers and some firms. And let's go ahead and click on some of these. Let's click on some of these law firms right here. So we came up here. I'm going to this one, Krieg. I'm opening up the sources, and I'm going to click on this link here, and it's going to pull up here. So I got to click on this link to get to a reference, and then from the reference, I can get to the page. Boom, boom, away. There's probate. There's the next one. Some of these two guys didn't even have references, so no links to. There's another one. All going to the website, though. I wonder how many people actually did that. Not too many. And then here's one I put into Google Gemini. And I need, again, we saw this just a few moments ago in the AI mode. I said, I need an Alabama domestic violence criminal defense lawyer in Huntsville. Okay. And it just gave me a set of links. And that's basically a search from Gemini. And the worst part here is your next question will start a new search. And the problem here, and this is something that really separates Google's chat from OpenAI. If I had a search conversation going on with a history, I don't want to start a new search. Don't just say it's too controversial, give me a set of links, and then tell me click on these links and go visit some pages. They're using this part, and this is where I think Google's branding has harmed them in a way. They are afraid to do anything controversial. In this case, it was, basically domestic violence and criminal law, right? But I'm looking for a lawyer. I'm not saying I'm committing domestic violence. But this is a problem. And so I would now, if I had a previous discussion, so I'm off to these links, and if I have to start over, re-enter everything. That would not be true in OpenAI, unless, if it's the context window is really big. Sometimes it won't go that far back. But anyways, this I see as an issue. It bothers me. This bothers me personally. All right, so that's basically Google Search and AI. So let me get my chair fixed up here a second. Let's now talk. We've talked about this a bit already. Let's talk about ranking for services on it. All right. Okay. First, information versus services. We've already discussed this, but I'll run through it one more time. What's the statute of limitations for carjacking in California? That's an information search. I need to hire a probate lawyer in Palo Alto. Who should I hire? That's a services search, right? We're going to focus on services. These are the ones that actually get you clients with AI. The other one is where you donate your content to Google and then they use it to give a summary to somebody, and you may or may not get a contact. All right, searching for a lawyer. First, people searching for you. All right, we already saw this with Ron Miller, right? People will search you on AI. Eventually, they'll see you and they will know who you are on AI. And you need to present yourself well. Your website, directories, okay? We saw that before with Ron. We were going through this part. Searching for a lawyer for a practice area in a locality. This is your bread and butter, right? This is give me my probate lawyer in Houston, give me my divorce lawyer in Denver. This is the bread and butter place where you want to be one of the suggestions. Right? We saw this before at Relative Bankruptcy Lawyer. Same thing, directories and websites, right? Nothing fancy here. Here are some of the keys that you want to do well. You want to try to work the words top rated and best where you can do it. You got to be ethical. But if you can say you were a top rated lawyer, according to this service, then you have the word top rated lawyer near your name. If you're part of best lawyers, you're part of best lawyers. If you're part of super lawyers, you're part of super lawyers, right? You got the wordsmithing of it, right? On that part. Justia right now, we're going to segment out our stuff. So 9 and above is going to be top rated, and 7 above is going to be highly rated, and then under 7 you'll be rated in terms of our rankings, right? But you'll be able to use the word top rated because you'll be 9 and above. That's how we're breaking our stuff up. So there's ways, these other folks do it. They got some of the words in their names or in their levels, and you should use it. Avo 10.0, it's superb, right? You're a superb lawyer. Right. So there's ways you can work that into it where you're basically citing facts about yourself. Try to get that up there, but also try to keep your name somewhere around it. Right. And then also try to bring some of this stuff up around your law firm name. Right. This is just text, but if we can get it associated, it can be helpful to you. The other item on it, this is, again, I think it's stuff we already mentioned beforehand, is try to get this type of text on all the different profiles, right? All the different websites and directories. Lawyer, law firm, business directories, social media stuff. Try to do it. Try like you're marketing yourself out. And then Google business profiles, obviously reviews have always been the biggest thing for Google Maps to rank higher, right? That's been the big thing. And we could question whether their AI checkers are catching all the fake reviews because that's to be questionable. But that said, at least on the text part, try to get real reviews, push to get reviews from people, but also add in good text talking about why you're great and mentioning some of your other awards. That will help you with Google. And then try to get your products in there. You could get some additional, when you do that, you can get some additional text into the product pages, which will be your services, but they're called products when you go into the Google part, and maybe some questions and answers. We can also answer some questions, right? You can, people write their own questions and they answer them. You can do that as well. Post, I always do posts whenever I get an award. You can, I think post for current awareness stuff is, I don't know if it's being tied to LLMs, but certainly might help you a little bit on the margin to show up in the mapped results. All right. Here's an example. So who are the top Palo Alto criminal lawyers? I just want to show you an example how the wording stuff can be picked up. So here it says James Dunn, known for his work in DUI cases. Okay, that's good. All right. Here's James Dunn. And it says right here, if I pop that up, James Dunn, he is highlighted as one of the top criminal lawyers DUI defense with an A+ BBB rating and a 10 out of 10 superb rating in Avo, according to the law offices of James Dunn. Okay. So this is according to him, he's this. He's also recognized for winning a landmark breathalyzer case, right? But this is good stuff that he's written about himself. And if you go there, here's his page, and you can see it. This came from this page right here. See this blue? This is white on blue. It's sort of hard to read because it's white on blue. But James Dunn, there is top criminal defense lawyer, DUI. He's the top, right? It says there is top, right? And it said it right here in the AI result on Google, right? 10. Now I'm not here to call people out because I'm not going to put up this current Avo's rankings change, right? The numbers aren't always consistent. So I'm not going to go look at Avo right now for James Dunn in Palo Alto. This data is coming from his website. All right. If you're going to put up numbers, you should double check to make sure you keep your profile up to date and that you're always at what you're saying you are. That's a separate thing. But that's, you guys need to do it. I do understand that Avo updates things over time, and this certainly was likely true at the time it was put onto his website. But regardless of all that, it is being pulled into the Google AI. Okay? It's being right there. They took what he wrote and they put it there. Bam. Okay. Let's talk about where to, on your website, to put this profile information. Okay, we'll give some examples here. So we are going to overtime, but that's why I gave you the answer sheet up front, and this is just more explanations as we go. Your homepage, right? So here's Garrett Gare. Who are the best New York personal injury lawyers? There's Garrett Gare. They're always doing well. So there's Garrett Gare's site, and I hear that was on Gemini. Here they are on OpenAI, on ChatGPT, and here they are right there again, right? Here's their homepage, and if you mouse down their homepage a little bit, you'll get to this. A whole thing about how they're great, right? Lawyer of the year, everything. Just great, great, great. Best lawyer, personal lawyers in New York City, super lawyer, top 10, all these different things. I would try to work into your homepage some text about your firm as to why you're a top firm. Maybe bring in some of the lawyers, especially the partners that are the named partners, and get some text up there. Normally, I like to get something maybe a little even higher on their page in that top 2 or 3 paragraphs, because it also works to convert people to contact you who land on your homepage. But try to get the words in there. It's not enough just to have the badges. I want to see your firm name and say, I was an Avo 10, I was a Justia 10, I'm a super lawyer, I'm a best lawyer, I'm a attorney, $1 million advocate, multi-million dollar advocate, all the different ones, expertise.com. Try to work the ones in there, okay? And try to get it on your homepage. That's one page that tends to get indexed the most, your homepage. So if you make that one good, make it good. You can put some up the top, put some more lower if you want, but I would try to work some, almost like a little word section on your homepage there. So maybe a little marking text at the front, we mentioned some of them, and then more details lower on the page if you want. This is for the AI. Not just, but I think it also help you convert people. All right, homepage, that's it. So a lot of people don't put stuff on their homepage, so they just put the badges up with no text. What I'm saying is put the text up there. Next one, you can have different profile pages. So like here's one on their personal injury practice. They have a whole set here with, on Ben and Howard, how they're great lawyers. If I come into Gemini, I can see that they're mentioned right here. This is one of the pages that this stuff's being pulled off of. So when you have an About Us page, right, you should work some extra stuff in there. That's sort of what this page is. Extra awards, stuff that's not even on your homepage. You can expand a bit more on that page. So you should, that's in your About Firm page. You also probably should mention maybe the types of practice, types of cases you handle, your approach to the law. Verdicts and settlements are helpful. Representative clients. Testimonials, right? We've seen some of these things mention testimonials. You should work testimonials in there. So there's a bunch of things you should work on to these pages for you to help you with the AIs. And this is for the discovery part. Right? Here it is. Forbes best personal lawyers in New York City. Forbes. Right? And super lawyers, best lawyers. But, right there. It's coming off their page. And here's Ben, right? He's got his own page. This is, you come to this page. This is basically, it's like he's in his office with all his plaques. I mean, look at all those Lawyer of the Year awards, right? And if I go look him up, it just tells me a bunch of facts about him, all of which is positive, right? So that's the one thing I mentioned about your profiles on your website, especially about the firm profile and your lawyer profiles. And this is true with Ron Miller as well beforehand. When they start writing extended profiles about you on the AI, there's only so much they can get from the lawyer directories and business directories. All those are somewhat contained, right? There's a limitation on how much text you can put in most of the times. The place where they sort of fill in the full details, that tends to come from your profiles on your own pages. So if you want to get some additional community service stuff in there, you want to you go more detail about some of the cases that you've done, that's the place to do it. Make a profile. It's almost like a CV, and then just try to work your name in maybe every 2 to 3 paragraphs, so your name's still attached to it. I know the page is about you, but I want to keep a little bit of closeness with your name. Same thing with the law firm name. Try to work the law firm name in a few times. So don't say, I did this, I did that, say, try to, add a little Ron Miller in there. It'll help. And that makes your longer profiles to be more filled out because you added all this stuff on your individual website profile. All right, let's do one more. Let's do Michael Crowley. All right, so Michael Crowley has got his website. And if I say, who are the best Los Angeles criminal lawyers? And there he is. And if I go to ChatGPT, there he is. All right. So Mike has a good profile, has a lot of text on there, but he also has good lawyer directory profiles. He's got Justia 10. He's got Avo 10. There's a Avo 10 Superb right here, Avo rating. So he's gone out and he's, really beefed up his profiles, and that's helped him out quite a bit. And that lifts him up in the AI results. He's already, search wise, he provides lots of information. He's got, a big site for providing things, providing info. But for the AI stuff, what's helping him a lot are these lawyer directory profiles. Again, we've got a list of them. Go check out the list. All right. And everyone that's free, but don't just do the top ones. Do them all, anything that you get there. And remember, even if you can't get a link, they want to sell links, right? For you all, for AI purposes, this is more about the text than the links, and mentioning your awards and your verdicts and some, mentioning positive things about yourself. So you just have to realize that part. So it's not just links now for AI. Again, Google's still the main referrer, but AI is going to pop up more and more. And you do want to be in these suggestions, even if they don't come to you, even if they don't come to your website. Maybe they go to your Google business page. Maybe they just see your phone number, right? All right. So these ones you should do for lawyer directories that we have. And then for business directories, what I would recommend, certainly a lot of people use Yext, and they do that just to get everything out fast, or they use Moz Local, or they use Bright Local. They use some of these services. But the one, if you want to do it for AI LLM purposes, I would take a look at, one, go claim the individual profiles yourself, right? Go to Yelp, claim it. Go to, claim your Facebook, claim all these, city pages, any ones that seem decent. Search your firm name and see which ones show up. Those are probably the ones that to start in Google, and see those are probably the ones to start with. But if I wanted to use a service that helped me do it, I would use WhiteSpark, and they will go in, help you claim profiles, get your logins. They know the process. And a lot of times you go into these different business directories, they're hard to figure out. There's just, you're going to go in there once, maybe twice, but they'll help you get the logins. And once you have the logins, fill out the profile. Sometimes the practice areas are slightly different, right? Sometimes they'll have different sub areas of personal injury. They'll have car accidents and truck accidents, basically the same thing, but they'll have those things broken down. Sometimes they won't. And you have different parts you can fill out. Fill those profiles out as much as you can. And then for your overall bio text, don't put the exact same text everywhere like you would with Yext, right? Remember, Yext was doing Spanish directories and they put the bio text in English. It didn't make any sense. Put text in that's particular to that directory. And it can be similar, and you can use AI to help you rewrite the text, right? Rewrite this text 50 times so it's different. That's fine. And then double check to make sure it's still true, you're not missing anything. But put that into each of these business directories. But WhiteSpark's, quite good at this stuff. And a lot of people use WhiteSpark to help them, even the outside consultants in the legal marketing world use WhiteSpark. And they're Canadian, so they're nice. Go back and watch the video if you have time. It might be, we're already way over, but if you want to watch a video on profiles, the one that Conrad and I did. So, and Mockingbird Marketing has some other stuff on profiles as well. He's done some other webinars and things on it. Last thing, if you need to check something to see if it's duplicate, you can always use Copyscape. But really, just take a profile, write it yourself once, and run it through AI to help you write different ones. We are right now, Google changed things like Copyscape. It helps you check duplicate content, but really it's substantially similar in terms of the rankings. It's not quite exact text. It's not quite as important anymore. For LLMs right now, it's still pretty much exact text is the bigger matching thing. They're not that level. They're trying to find, this is similar. By the way, if they did find it similar, it would actually just be reinforce it, which is actually good. So, but if it's exactly the same, it might get discounted out. It might not, but it might. Because they might say, it's just a double copy of it. I don't know how that showed up. All right. And again, just to reinforce it, directories and websites are the big ones for you. And then business directories like Yelp, Facebook, LinkedIn, Facebook business page, LinkedIn profile page, and your business page for that as well. There you go. Directories and websites. Okay, it's fine. All right, so we did that. We've talked through this stuff. We talked through information services, searching for lawyers, the main one, your website, homepage, your bios, and then other bios on directories. Again, a lot of this is repeat, but the big thing here, I guess, maybe on the profiles, make sure that you mention both the individual lawyers and the law firm, especially on the lawyer directories, and on the law firm directories, mention some of your lawyers. All right, so you get a little double credit out for both. Google Business Profile. So remember, we had this one here, and they all went to Google Business Profiles. So what you need to do, so let's take a look at Jeff Glassman here. So here's Jeff, he's got some stuff. So first thing is, get these products going. You can add products, and they're basically your services, and then you can write some text about them. All right, write that part. Get that part going, and you can really sort of break that down. You can make a hierarchy if you want to. Write good text here. Try to get in some of your words and different items here, and try to work on that a bit. And the last part here is get some posts going. It's not make or break, but ideally, if you could post once a week, this is an older screenshot, but sort of try to get that stuff moving a bit. And on the AI, then you type Boston personal injury lawyer. Now Jeff has a lot of placements as well. There he is for that. Now, granted, it's already looking for the highly rated experienced ones. Again, I'm using like a Google search in AI. I understand from certain members of our engineering team, nobody does that in AI. They say, give me the best. But again, even if I just typed in like an old Google search term, it's going to add in highly rated experience, right? Here's Jeff. There's his profile. There is link right here, which is going off to his Google one, which in this case will be here, right? This Google business profile. So something to do. You should take this one serious. I mean, everybody tells you Google business profile serious because of Google search. So the difference here is go back through your text, make sure that you mention your awards, and if it's a law firm, maybe mention a couple of your attorneys. Add products if you haven't already done that. Maybe add some Q&A if you haven't already done that. Add some posts, maybe once a week. All right, so that would be helpful for you. But the product stuff is of text, and the Q&A part to get text in. That's stuff that I don't think a ton of people are doing, and Google may or may not use it, but they could use it. All right, and they like to use their own stuff. All right, fine. That's really the main stuff. Everything else, we're going to cover the rest of this, but the ranking for services is what matters here, right? I'm going to cover ranking for information, but you already have an idea what I'm thinking about that. And then we'll walk through some AI guidelines for Google. That'll be quick, and this last part's very quick. All right. Searching for information, right? This is what's statute of limitations for shoplifting in California. That's an information search, right? Not looking for a lawyer necessarily, just want to know what the statute of limitations is. No big deal. It's like any other information search. Here's what you want to do. Question and answer format for the text. What is this? This is that. Now, a lot of folks will say, ask a question and try to answer the first, 200 words. What I would say is ask the question, what is this? Repeat the this at the beginning and say, this is that. What is the statute of limitations for shoplifting in California? The statute of limitations for shoplifting in California is 4 years or 3 years, whatever it is, right? And repeat the question back to the answer. And then you can add more nuances, right? Oh, it's a DUI with bodily injury. That changes it's different things like that. But you get the basic stuff down, right? Depending on what you're trying to write. You basically get the core answer down, and then you go on to the nuance part. So it matches up, and you try to get it pretty tight. Because even though the AI will pick up more stuff, it's still, if it's tighter, you're more likely to get picked up. So just still don't waste a lot of extra words here. Really try to focus in on the answer. Second thing is you can use FAQ page schema markup. I don't expect lawyers to know this. Your developers may or may not have it built in their systems. If you're using WordPress, you have the Yoast plugin that can do it. All right. So it's not make or break though. This question and answer part here, this is pretty good at Google and OpenAI. They're all pretty good at processing text, right? That's pretty much fine. But here's a page on it. If you want to put it in by hand, good luck on that. But just, either have it built in or you don't. Here's Ron Miller, right? So here's an example. This is FAQs for medical malpractice. Here's how do you prove medical malpractice, just some examples. All right. Anyways, Here's one, what stage limitations. This is the old feature snippet world. So we talked a lot about this in the past. How do I get feature snippet, which was really a question and answer, right? And here it is, stage limitation, right here it is. This is great. Stage limitations for personal injury, Maryland, 3 years. Miller and Zoyce, right there at the top. It's got the answer, but it also has a big link to his site right above. And this would produce traffic. Even though he gave the answer, it still produced traffic because he is the only one. Bam. Just great. And you read about feature snippets. All right. This is the same sort of thing with AI. And with AI, again, overview. And I get this answer. It's much more detailed than my featured snippet. It's got a lot more stuff in here. And then I have him right here. Okay. He's actually here too with a separate blog site that he has. And then here's the rest of the page. You go down the page. There he is lower on the page. And so we went from this, we had the very at the top to this, where you have, and listen, he's got more links than most people here on the AI summary. So if someone's going to click on something, they probably do that. But they might also click on these citations that would take them over. It's the traffic, the idea that people click on these citations and go here and look to the right and click on it, it's not high. All right. It's not, I mean, they're just reading the answer and they're moving on. So it's really significantly information's AI overviews have significantly hurt organic traffic to sites that provide lots of information. Here's an example where you can find questions to answer. So I'm just going to go off to this section here. Let me show you type answer questions. So here's another one I did a while ago. It's an AI overview. The stage limitations for medical malpractice lawsuits. Okay, well, here comes the AI overview. That's fine. You can sort of see it. It gives some examples. And then we go here. Let's go take a look at the people also ask. So here's the thing. If you're looking for questions to answer on your website, just go to people also ask. Every single time you open up one, it gives you a bunch of extras. Every time you open one, I think you get back 3 more. So I'm just opening up questions and I keep getting more and more. Right now, look how many I have here, right? I just had 4. I kept opening them up and now I've got the ones I opened, plus I got all these additional ones. So you can just keep adding questions and it'll just keep giving you more and eventually it'll go off on tangents, reword it. But this gives you an idea of the types of questions and answers that Google has here. And then what you do is you look at the question, you write an answer, you make it better than what you see, right? It's nothing tricky. Look at the question, write a better answer. If it's almost an exact match, don't write the same question 3 different ways. Just write it once, but at least you can try to you write a better answer than every single thing you see. All right. Here's another place you can get. This is another great place to get questions to write about. Is you go to the AI and you ask it. Right. So here I'm going to 2.5 Pro because when I'm doing my own work, I always use 2.5 Pro. And I said, I'm a Baltimore personal injury lawyer writing a webpage on truck accidents for my law firm website. I need to add some question and answers to the truck accident page. Both dots they're missing. And then it gives me a list of questions. In this case, it also gave me a list of answers. Right. I would modify these up somewhat, but it gives you a decent idea of stuff. This is just one quick thing in Pro, and it just gave me all these questions and answers, and I need to go fix them. So again, what is this? This is that. Use FAQ schema markup. The other thing is if you have headings, it sometimes take your headings like within a page and try to make them into questions. It helps slightly because any questions and answers always do better in LLM AIs because the reason is people are normally entering the AI asking a question, right? They don't tend to just make statements, right? So they'll ask questions and they wait for the answers. All right, then pages for this is really just to show you. I would focus on, to a large point, for citations, making sort of longer pages. That's probably the one bigger thing I would say with AI becoming more important. I think you also get more collisions and things like that when you do it. Coming back to this stuff, here's a bunch of different items here. Again, versus this part. But longer pages tend to do better with AI. So just try to make longer pages if possible. This is the part I wanted to show you though, and this is, in terms of getting links, these were all links to websites. And right now I got to go over here to the citation to get a link. This is what we've seen. And again, you're not going to know what this is, but this person, is probably getting a couple thousand clicks. It probably fell to 1,000 clicks a day. I mean, it's certainly fallen. And this is what we've sort of seen. So for most people that do information, still, by the way, ranking at the top, this particular one, for all the basic service terms on Google, right? Locality, practice area, lawyer, first or second in the maps, doing one. But they also have a lot of information pages. And what's happened is that, you always had, obviously there's different scales things here, but, it was pretty close in terms of the scale. And the citations, the mentions have actually gone up quite a bit. This is being mentioned in all those AI citations, right? So versus being just showing up on the web page and being a potential click, now you're showing up on the AI side. By the way, even if you're hidden, they count that. So even if it's hidden, that counts as a citation that occurred. So a lot more citations as you get picked up in the AI. And part of that is that with an AI overview, let's say they put 10 links per page in terms of organic results. They might put another 20, 30 links in the AI overview part. So there's a lot more positions to get. Sometimes you get multiple positions, also, as we saw with Ron Miller. But people don't tend to click on those. And so the problem is that the traffic goes down. Now, these are information searches. The service searches, you still, in the AI, I think you still have a decent shot, at least being contacted. But for the information, this has happened. And the issue on the organic rankings is that your information searches often were helping out your service rankings because you're getting a higher click-through rate to your site overall. And so it lifted your whole site up. And when fewer people click onto your website, it can actually impact other searches. Now, it might be that if you show up in lots of citations that you actually do better and they actually rank you higher because of your citation mentions. So it could be, even though you're not getting clicks for these information searches, because of them, I'm now ranking higher for, Denver divorce lawyer, because I had all this other information about divorce. It's not being clicked on anymore, but it's so cited that they're moving me up into both the AI and on the organic side for that. I don't know if that's true. I do know when people are clicking onto your website, you move up for the other items because you had a lot of information. Whether you get credit for being in the AI citations, maybe not. It would make sense that they would, but who knows? And here's the click-through rate. So you see the click-through rate, around 3%, and now around 1%. So drastic difference here. And that's basically information stuff on Google. And this is AI. This is AI overviews causing this. The ranking position has stayed pretty much the same, right? A little higher, not much. Up and down, up and down. I don't know what happened that day, but one day happened. A little bit down here and then come back up. But certainly not to the level that the click-through rate's fallen. So, all right. It's great. So we've now covered ranking information AI. Questions and answers, do FAQ stuff. That's fine. Sort of covered that multiple times. I will now, since we keep going here, we're already half hour over, but we'll do the AI generated stuff. This is pretty quick. So the big thing here with Google is they face an issue in that there are websites creating millions of pages using AI, just millions, and they're nonstop. In fact, they could grab a lawyer website and they could just make a brand new website with it, right? They could grab, Justia and make a brand new Justia with it, right? It's going on. And Google has an issue in that they are now indexing AI, and AI is becoming the back end for AI. You can see where this goes, right? It might not be what they want. So Google has said, we want originality on stuff. And this would be more important. That's from Gary and from Google, one of the search liaisons. And they said that earlier this year. And then they changed out the quality guidelines for the Google search quality guidelines that the testers use. And they're now looking for effort. So you can get to the Google search guidelines. You go to j.st/GS. That always goes to the latest version. So if you ever want to get there, you can go take a look at it. But the main thing here is that they're trying to get to the point where they want to see effort. In the last few years, they've been focused on this new part here, experience, the experience of the content creator. And what the reason for this is they're trying to separate out content that is sort of research content, which can easily be redone by AI, right? Like easily to take something and do say, well, this is how you walk up a mountain. This is how you walk up a mountain, right? Just use AI versus I walked up a mountain. This is how I did it. That sort of that Reddit experience. So the experience is counting more. Now your lawyers So for the most part, you get certain credit for experience because you're writing as a lawyer. If you were not a lawyer, you wrote the same content, it would not be quite as good. On the other hand, you should try to work some more of your personal wording into it. So the issue in here is this stuff about scaled abuse is sort of what they talk about. This is using AI part. I'm going to come back to that in a second. The bigger thing for you all right now to do is for you all to, when you're writing your content, try to add some first person wording into it, right? So it doesn't mean you can't use AI to help you write your content. You can use ChatGPT, you can use Gemini, you can use Claude, you could use the Thompson services or use Vincent at VLEX. There's stuff you can use to help you write stuff. Check it, make sure it's true. But you can use AI, but you need to somehow tie in your personal experience. They're not going to stop you from using AI. What they don't want is these guys making these massive AI sites. But if you work in your personal stuff, that helps. And one way to do that is to start adding I and we's. Even if you haven't done it, like, well, this is how we would approach an arson case. We would look here, 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 and here. Versus approaching an arson case, you do this, this, and this, right? You're just adding a we and I to it. It changes the way it's seen, right? It makes it personal to you. The other part, I'm not covering it here because I'm not going to cover how to use AI to write content, but obviously check your stuff, but always put a page up, ask for suggestions how to make it better in one of the thinking models for ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Claude, but use the thinking model. Ask how to make your content better, then say rewrite with those suggestions, then take it over to the other model, ask it how to make it better, then say rewrite it. But you got to do these multi-process things. Always ask it how to make it better first, get the list of suggestions, make sure it's legally correct, and then bounce back and forth. If you do that across models, you'll be in pretty good shape. You're not gonna get the error rate you're gonna do that if you just use ChatGPT one time or Google one time. They will make stuff up, but the other ones are pretty good at checking it, especially if part of what they were told to do is to check it. But you're gonna have to bounce around a few times if you're gonna use it. But that said, to get back to this experience part, which is the main part of this thing in terms of using AI, once you have it written, try to go back in and rewrite it and add the words we and I into it in terms of how you discuss it. It will help. That and remove the M dashes. They don't like it. No, just kidding. That's an AI thing. But no, I's and we's to do that part. That'll help you it'll make it so that it'll be seen as more personal to you. Right. And again, anything you use AI for, check. Anything you write anyway, check. I mean, always check your work. All right. That's pretty much the core stuff. I'll quickly run through this stuff at the end here. Again, here were the items that we mentioned, sort of the core items, big things. Get awards, mention your awards on all the different profiles on your website, on the lawyer directory part, and make sure that your website is being indexed by the AI spiders. All right. Make sure that you weren't accidentally remove access from Cloudflare or whatever. All right. At least the main ones. Go double check that until if your own profiles aren't indexed, that's not good. And then realize, as we mentioned, that different data sets might be for different folk, be with different AIs, depending on what's been licensed, not licensed, or what's personal. Google business profiles used by Google, right? That makes sense. Facebook has a lot of Facebook stuff. So anyways, this is stuff we brought up beforehand, QA stuff. All right. Got Google, ChatGPT. Here's where I think somewhat some of the things to think about. One, I know a lot of people talk about Google. Apple mentioned that they had actually had fewer searches for the first time last spring, right? It mentioned that on Safari on the iPhone. And, they also said Apple was considering buying Perplexity, as is Amazon, as is maybe Meta. And you also had this a couple days ago, that is Google killing search, and because their revenue's up. So I just make a couple of quick statements. The biggest risk that Google has immediately that they would change their business somewhat, at least substantially impact the revenue, would be if the Apple Google deal was somehow broken, right? So they couldn't get Google search to be the default search engine on Safari. So if Apple bought Perplexity, that could be a problem right there. Or if if the ruling comes down from a judge saying that you can't pay this money to Apple. And by the way, Apple likes the money. I don't say that it's not like they're not paying money for it. But the idea that people would choose Google anyways, that might be true, but then why are you paying tens of billions of dollars if you didn't have to? Because most businesses wouldn't do that. So there are questions there, but that's the biggest risk I see to them. I don't know exactly where that goes. I'm going to guess where it was going under the Biden administration. I don't know with Trump. Depends how he feels about Google or how they feel. It's much more, it's a different DOJ these days. I just can't quite figure that out. So, but that's why I see as their biggest risk. The second one they have is everything slowly moving to AI, especially younger people getting older, and they're AI first. And more people will slowly become AI first. And Google's in good position there. They're just on the same position that they were in search, where they're just killing everybody. There's Bing, I guess, but they're just dominating. So could they dominate AI the same way? Maybe. They've got really good programmers and they're good technically. And I do believe that they have better data and they have better idea what's quality data and what's not quality data than OpenAI, which is just all over the place. On the other hand, because Google has branded their AI Google, not like Waymo or something, but it's branded Google. And whenever there's something controversial, people go crazy on social media. And so they've stopped keeping the flow of conversations going. The flow, if you check out the flow on OpenAI and ChatGPT, and you do that same sort of stuff on Google, you will see the difference. ChatGPT makes you want to keep chatting. How else can I help? What else can I do? And Gemini is more like, here's your answer. Or I don't like this, too controversial. I'm going to just set it aside. Here's a set of links. Move on. So these are the types of things that you sort of see as you play with both. And they can make adjustments, and they got a lot of traffic that they can keep putting into the AI. But there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm sure they are making more money right now. They don't do the infinite scroll anymore. The ads look like the organic stuff, the organic placements. You're now able to buy more than one ad on the page. They're doing a lot of stuff to keep the revenue up. To me, the bigger thing is the Google part and how AI starts taking more share, either not just whether it's the OpenAI or to Google, it's just taking share from search. Because I don't think you can make as much money off placement ads on an AI result as you can on a search result page where it's one more link versus, something I read the article. I'm not clicking on the citations. I'm not clicking on the ads. I just read my article for what I need to know. All right. Perplexity, again, that they're pretty well known. They've done pretty well. They were, building off other people's AI. Now they're starting to build some of their own stuff. They use a bunch of different models now. Big thing is they become part of Apple, right? If Apple purchased them, or if Amazon purchased them, or if Meta purchased them, that could easily happen. Claude, Perplexity used by tech people doing searches. I don't think it's used by everybody, but certainly some. Claude used by a lot of writers. Really good for writing, but they're really a way back behind OpenAI and certainly Gemini because of Google's power. I would say the same thing. I would say look for them to be bought by Apple or Amazon. I could see that happening, or Google has investments in them that might be folded in there somehow. But again, they're strong. They might stick around longer. But I expect some consolidation in this grouping here, probably going to some of the other big tech companies. So Meta and Grok. You start with Meta. The big thing here. I'll go back here. The big thing with Meta is they have all the Facebook information, all the Instagram information, right? They have a lot of information on folks, and they can use that data to customize results and to get different information. That's really their strength. Their model they put out to everyone. They may or may not buy someone else. They're spending a ton of money on AI right now. They're hiring up everybody. But their real core thing is their data that they have that's unique. Especially, and now it's Instagram, before it was Facebook. And Grok, again, I don't know. It's whether they have X data and it's been conditioned sometimes to follow what Elon says first. I think there's questions about this one. I have no doubt they have good technology people and they have a lot of money that they could spend on it. It's maybe they get certain support. They might. I would have guessed earlier on. I would have said they were getting a lot of support from the Trump administration. I don't know if that's true now on that part. So it is what it is. You can, if you're on Twitter or on X, then certainly you can always grok tweets and it'll tell you whether it's true or not. And most of the time it's correct. And the thing that's driving it, the costs are just going down. And a large part of this has been Chinese companies like DeepSeek helping push the cost down, the U.S. folks matching it. My guess right now is nobody's making money on it, except NVIDIA, which is making lots of money. But it's all about market share right now. And Google needs to use its position to grab market share. Because as I said, the worst case scenario is OpenAI winning. The best case scenario if search stays as it is. The middle case is that we own the AI. So that at least they need to own the AI services from a Google standpoint as they try to grab market share. But everybody's, prices have gone way, way down. Everything's super cheap now. And it's built into everything, right? All this stuff they're going to charge extra for, it's all built in. Future stuff, you got the chatbots. I started mentioning this stuff with Conrad. They will have, your call centers will be done with AI soon enough. That's going to get better and better. Conrad at Mockingbird Media was telling me about some folks that he knew that were starting this stuff. It's inevitable. The chat will get better. And again, like I mentioned beforehand, people have this stuff built into glasses. They will see you and they will know stuff about you from LLMs. So you want to have good information showing up about you. So another reason to keep your profiles up to date. All right. And that's it. I know I went way, way over. I'm not surprised. But I gave you the answers up front. And so I gave you the answers up front. So I'll leave it there. So we can go questions if there's anybody there. I don't know if people are still around. Maybe some.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, we have a few questions in the chat. We'll go through 3 or 4. And I do just want to mention, if you all have additional questions that you'd like to ask us that we're not able to get to today, you can always reach us at support.justia.com. We're happy to answer your questions there as well. So our first question is from Paula. They ask, how do you recommend removing any negative references or information that you don't want to come up in AI about yourself or your firm? How can you control that?
So you could try some reputation management, folks. So, I'll sort of walk through the basics. If it's personal to you, like in some way, like an address, phone number, something like that, sometimes there's ways to have that removed from Google for certain searches about you, and that may or may not remove it from some of the LLMs from it. Some of the LLMs have places you can contact them when the information is showing up. So they all do, but you can go find places there where you can contact them about something and show them an example if it's showing up. If it's something that's copyrighted, you can often get that removed from the LLMs or from the search engines. I've seen that happen where, my example, there was like a lawyer and he had been dating a woman like 25 years ago, and now he was on with his life. And then she published all his letters, and the letters were her. She didn't have the copyright to republish them. So he was able to get those removed that way. So sometimes there's ways to do that. Sometimes they have photos that you own the copyright of. You can get that removed and then remove the page. The other thing, though, I think is probably just try to get a lot more positive information. LLMs aren't looking for random, like one-off things. They're trying to get the consensus. So I think if you really push profiles for your firm, and if it's a law firm, you really got to hit the business profiles. It's probably the big thing to do, is in addition to the lawyer directory and law firm side. If it's your own profile, you got to make sure you know the lawyer directories, and there might be some other places you can get picked up, beyond LinkedIn. There's some other social places you can try to do profiles. Most of the folks that do like reputation.com and things like that, they'll try to get stuff removed. Sometimes they'll file lawsuits. They'll file stuff with Google. Google's not always easy to get stuff removed. If it's like a docket or something, we'll just tend to block it from the search engine. So if it's like something with us, just let us know. We block it, it's more just trying to probably get more information out about yourself. That's probably the bigger thing that you need to do. But there are ways, there are companies that do that. So it's not impossible. And there are ways to contact LLMs if they're putting stuff out. They do not want to do that. And by the way, in general, if you ever looked at most of the stuff, it tends to be positive. They tend to have like a positive overlay for anything they write about anyone. So it's more about getting included in the positive part. They don't tend to put out negative stuff too much about people unless it's being directly asked for.
Tim, thanks for that insight, Tim. Our next question is from an anonymous attendee. They ask, how frequently should we update our Q&A content to remain relevant in those generative AI search engines?
I don't think you need to update it that much. It's not like trying to get fresh content. The big thing here is to make sure it's correct. If it's not correct, that will hit your site both in Google search and in LLM, especially Google. I don't know if OpenAI is fully paying attention to what's correct or not correct. I'm sure they want to. But Google definitely will. If they find legal content that's wrong, Google's going to slam you. So those are the ones I would really pay attention to. But it's more being correct than trying to add or change. That said, with AI, I think it's easier to add new content. You just got to make sure you do it in a way that works with Google. So tying in your personal experience and making sure it's true. But I don't, the idea that people are not going to use AI, I think is crazy. I think everyone's going to use it, even if if you use Grammarly, you're using AI, right? Just in terms of getting your tone right. So, I would still use it, just do that bounce back and forth and add more stuff up. When I say bounce back and forth, give me suggestions on Gemini, rewrite it on Gemini, give me suggestions on OpenAI, rewrite it OpenAI, and then back until I feel like I got a good version of it. And then I read it myself, and then I go through and I personalize it with I's and we's and make sure it's correct. But I think that part, it's a lot easier to edit a draft than it is to write something from scratch. So I don't know if that helps or not. But I wouldn't be worried about updating stuff all the time, or it's not necessary for LLMs.
Thanks, Tim. The last question that we have time for today is about profiles on their own firm site. So, could you just briefly go over what the core elements of an attorney profile on a firm website should be and how that should look?
So, all right. So the big thing, you're going to have your basic stuff like your education, stuff like that. But I would take a look at profiles that Justia, Avo, super lawyers have up about people. It doesn't have to be about you. I would take a look at what large law firms like to do. So go to Skadden Arps, go to Gibson Dunn, go to Wilson Sonsini, see what they put up for their folks. See speaking engagements, writings, stuff like that. A lot of bar association stuff. And I would try to write something that's really full, right? I try to get all this. If you can put as much stuff as you want in your own profile, no one's going to stop you. So get something that's really full, and maybe on parts of it, put some descriptive text on it, right? Like I was on the executive committee for law practice and technology for the California bar. Maybe I should describe what that is a little bit. I could do that part, right? And things like that. The bigger thing here on your profiles is make sure that you're mentioning your awards by name and get those awards near your name. So I want to see, Jane Smith has been an AVO 10 out of 10, a Justia 10 out of 10, is a super lawyer, has been a best lawyer. She has done this. Try to get that contained up front. Try to get my verdicts and settlements include, Jane's, try to get Jane's, verdicts and settlements include. Try to get the full names in there around some of these core elements that get you ranked. And work your name into the text and make little blocks of awards, little blocks of verdicts and settlements or representative cases. Get some testimonials in about yourself. So you got the full information about what you did, but what's driving it will be your awards, like years of experience, the actual areas you practice, client testimonials, what lawyers say about you, items like that. It's almost, and that's true with LLMs. And I'm pretty sure that when the people that are deciding whether you're a super lawyer or not, who don't really know you because you're up in Reading and they're in Los Angeles and they've got to make a decision, they're going to go look online too and probably use an LLM or just do a search. So make it like you want to present yourself in your best light. And if you made your profile what you would like the answer sheet to be for your LLM result, that would be a good place to start. The only difference is make sure you get your name in mentioned a few times. And then the one other item I would say on non-law firm websites, on lawyer profiles, like on us and Avo in particular, try to get a couple sentences in your text about your law firm. So you can get some law firm credit there. Eventually we'll probably have law firm profiles, but we don't right now. And so that's a way to help your law firm as well. And law firms with Google tend to be more important. So that's why I would say there for your bio for your law firm is overall, you can put more of the firm history, more of how they look at stuff. I always think it's good to work in public service, different things like that, any teachings that you've done. Those are different items. In fact, if you ever look at, you do a search, look at super lawyers and they give you an idea of what they do in terms of how they put together who's a super lawyer. A lot of it, there's a lot of pro bono and things like that into it. That's a good to take a look at their funnel. And then, but look at Justia, what we're adding. We're adding more stuff to our directory soon, next few months, next few weeks, actually. And then look at Avo and they'll give you a good sense of it. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but hopefully.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. And thank you all for asking your questions. We really appreciate your participation. As I mentioned, if you have a question that didn't get answered today and you'd like us to address it, you can always email us at support.justia.com and get in touch there. We want to thank you all so much for joining us for another Justia webinar. I wanted to remind you all, as I did at the top of our presentation, of the services available to you through our website platform, Justia Elevate. It's our powerful WordPress-based website solution that has built-in AI tools like our Justia AI Writer and the AI-powered Justia Chat. Our AI Writer is designed to help you create effortless content for your website, and Justia Chat helps you connect with leads like never before. If you'd like to learn more, including the pricing for your firm, you can go to elevate.justia.com/price or give us a call at 888-587-8421. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next video.